Well, the Ondes Martenot has so many roles in this piece. Much of the time, the Ondes is colouring other instruments, particularly the string instruments in the big melodic moments, and the woodwind and tuned percussion instruments in the more rhythmic moments. There's one theme that the Ondes Martenot does not play at all, and that is the theme which is called the statue theme, which is almost exclusively for the low brass. And we hear that theme quite early on in the first movement. The Ondes Martenot doesn't take part in the flower theme until much later in the work. But in the 8th movement of the 10 movements, the flower theme is developed, and the Ondes Martenot has these very mysterious trills which sound like this. And it's actually really hard to know where the sound is coming from, but this is how they sound. And the reason that that sounds almost metallic is because I'm using just this speaker, which is actually called the métallique speaker. It's an orchestral gong with a pin that goes through a small hole in it into a little drive mechanism, so that the sound of the gong becomes like a speaker diaphragm, effectively. The really special thing about the Ondes is actually the way that it's played. You'll have seen when I was showing you how the métallique worked, that I was using this device, the ruban. It's very hard to see, but there's actually a very fine thread which runs around a drum inside. And with this ring on my finger, I'm moving the thread up and down, and that gives me this sliding frequency. I can use this strip as a guide, but it's the movement of this which is changing the pitch. I can use this in a way to make it more comfortable to make a vibrato, but I could equally do that in the air. And any amount of pitch between the notes is to do with how much sound I retain, because even when I'm playing the keyboard, there's no sound when you strike the keys as there would be on a piano. I have to press this raised key here to make a sound. And this will just keep the last sound it hears. And all the dynamics is to do with how much or how little sound I use. So if I want to make a vibrato with the keyboard, that's also possible. It has a little bit of lateral vibrato, which just gives a nice life to the keys. With the Ondes, the pitch can be altered quite a bit. So I'm having to match the sound I hear. So the pitch is the first thing, which makes it much more like playing a string instrument or being a vocalist. The other things, which are very personal to players of the Ondes, are just matters of taste. So if I'm asked to move from one note to another, let's say I'm going to go from here to about here, I can make a sound which brings you all the microtones like this. But it sounds quite coarse. So what's much nicer is to do something where you maybe just pick up the beginning and then the end, like. So it's really just a matter of what feels right. And I would say that all players have a different sense of that. I think really we sound as different as singers sound different, and I think if you listen to the on being played by different players, you would probably even be able to identify which of us is playing.